Update. My 35 male goddaughter, 15 female, recently lost both of her parents, and she began living with my wife, 32 female, and I. My wife is now saying this isn't what she signed up for, and is beginning to act cold and rude towards her, and it's making me rethink if I want children with her. Original story. I am 35 male. My goddaughter Elizabeth, 15 female, is the daughter of my late best friend and his wife, who both died in a car accident earlier this year. Elizabeth was also involved in the accident and miraculously survived. Elizabeth doesn't have any other family. Her mother and father were both only children, except for an extremely elderly grandmother who lives in a nursing home. My wife and I talked about it at length and decided to take Elizabeth in. My wife never lived with anyone other than her parents and significant others. We live in a large house, and Elizabeth has her own room and bathroom. But my wife has begun getting angry at Elizabeth for doing small things. For example, eating a Pop-Tart that was supposed to be hers. It wasn't the last in the box. My wife never said to anyone not to eat them, and my wife wasn't even the one who bought them. We went camping over the weekend and brought 2 tents, a larger one for Elizabeth and my wife and a smaller one for me. In the middle of the night, Elizabeth came over to my tent in tears. Apparently, she had had a bad dream and woken up loudly. Instead of asking her if she was alright or if she needed anything, she groaned loudly and said, "You were freaking kidding me. This is ridiculous now." I confronted my wife about it the next day, and she said that she was fed up with living with Elizabeth, and that this isn't what she signed up for. Elizabeth isn't a bad kid. She doesn't cause any trouble. She contributes to the house. She takes care of herself for the most part. She cooks dinner sometimes, she has a part-time job, and she cleans up after herself. She goes to her therapist 3 times a week with no complaints and is doing everything that is asked of her. I don't understand what she's doing that my wife is so fed up with. Elizabeth wasn't feeling well, so we cut the camping trip early. And when we returned home, my wife went out with her friends for the day. The next morning, I left for a business trip, and Elizabeth went to her cheer camp for 2 weeks. So I still need to speak to my wife about what happened and the general way she has been treating Elizabeth. Not just the outright things, the passive-aggressive things too. Like rolling her eyes or sighing when Elizabeth begins talking. But at this point, I'm not sure if I want kids with her anymore. We were trying, and then stopped because neither one of us wanted to have a baby in a pandemic. And then my best friend passed. I don't know if I'm wrong in judging how she would be as a mother to how she's treating Elizabeth. I just don't see how she can be so rude towards someone who has been through so much so recently. I don't know how to bring up that I don't want kids with her anymore, or just not bring it up until she starts talking about trying again. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Yeah man, I'd be reconsidering the marriage, not just if you want kids with this lady. You and she talked about this. This girl is probably still getting over the trauma of losing both parents. And your wife goes, "I didn't sign up for this," and starts treating her badly? You need to bring it up like now. And wifey needs to be set straight that's just wrong. My son's friend was being mistreated by his mother and stepdad at home. He had a different dad than the other kids, a dad who was in prison for life, and the other kids were treated well. 3 days before his 18th birthday, in December, his parents threw him out. From then until high school graduation, he lived with us. The first thing he did was to go into the bathroom and clean every square centimeter of it. I asked him why he did that, and he said he really appreciated being allowed to stay with us. I told him, "I don't expect you to clean unless I ask you to do it. I'd like you to help with chores, but no more than my son does. You can relax and enjoy yourself otherwise." He later told me that his mom and stepdad made him clean the house whenever he was home. As in, if they found anything wrong anywhere in the house at any time, he had to deal with it, including toilets overflowing and plumbing incidents, while the parents and his siblings played games and watched TV. He's a great kid. Joined the Marines out of high school, finished his time there, and is now a married father of 2 and a homeowner. He said living with us showed him a different way of life than he knew growing up, and he wanted to parent his kids as we parented ours. We just wanted to give the poor kid the freedom and support to be a kid while he was 1, and to give him a little TLC. He was emotionally defeated. And then the family moved away, and didn't tell him or provide a forwarding address or anything. He sobbed in my arms, certain he would never see them again. Now ask yourself, Opie, what kind of home do you want? One that treats your best friend's orphan child in need with expressed contempt as an unwelcome intrusion in your lifestyle, Or one that treats your best friend's orphan child as a vulnerable young human who deserves a little loving compassion and kindness, and is happy to do so. I would also suggest you consider how she might respond to a situation in which you were the vulnerable one whose needs disrupt her lifestyle. What happens if you develop a serious illness? Did you know that sometimes when people get sick, their partners abandon them? Like, even if they are given a terminal diagnosis in their most dire time of need. And you know what they say? I didn't sign up for this. Just consider what kind of life you want, for you and Elizabeth, and if your wife is interested in being part of it. It sounds like that's a no, but you know her. What do you think? While your wife didn't sign up for this, human compassion dictates not berating a grieving child for eating a pastry innocently. She wouldn't be that rude to a stranger, so why is she acting this way? Your wife needs therapy, and you need to protect your goddaughter raise up. Feeling worthless and unwanted is usually damaging, especially after the recent loss of her parents. Please have a direct conversation right now, and have your wife move out if she needs space to consider this. Has your wife ever shown signs of acting this way with anyone? It would be usually surprising to wake up one day with a dismissive and angry spouse if this is unexpected behavior. But the wife and Opie did have a long conversation and she agreed to it. So she in fact did sign up for this. Opie says she never lived with anyone but parents and partners. Maybe she's just used to getting her way, not having to accommodate another person, let alone a teen, let alone a grieving teen. Maybe she and Opie didn't know that she doesn't have that kind of capacity for empathy. Great reminder, the wife signed up for this. It's fine for her to struggle, but she has made a commitment to this child. Your wife's behavior is disgusting. Self-centered, unsupportive, neglectful, which is horrible, and just downright unloving. 10 out of 10 would not want kids with her, and would start paying attention to possibly narcissistic tendencies. I know this is harsh, but wow, I'd be infuriated in your position. I am incredibly angry. It's been something that I've been keeping an eye on for a while. Like I've said, there are a lot of small things she does that I'm not sure if Elizabeth notices or not, but this weekend she was just out of line. And now for the update. Hello everyone. Thanks for all the comments, support, and advice on my previous post. I had a lot of people messaging me asking for an update once I spoke to my wife, which I did once I got home this morning. I began by bringing up that I've been getting concerned about her behavior towards Elizabeth. She flat out denied behaving any sort of way towards her. She says she treats Elizabeth fine, and that the incident that happened over the camping trip was blown way out of proportion by Elizabeth. I brought up how she often rolls her eyes or just walks out of the room, or goes on her phone in the middle of Elizabeth talking to us. She said that Elizabeth doesn't notice those things, and it's not like she's saying anything important anyway. I asked my wife what she meant when she said she hadn't signed up for this, and what she was fed up with. She said that she didn't realize all of the time and attention Elizabeth would take up. Ask her what she meant by that. Since Elizabeth is largely self-sufficient, and having her live with us hasn't really affected either one of our personal or work schedules. We still go on date nights 2 nights a week. If I can't drive Elizabeth anywhere, she finds a friend's parent to do it. We still get personal alone time together at home. She wasn't giving me any actual answers, just getting defensive and saying teenagers are annoying. So I finally just flat out asked her what I could do to remedy the situation. And after a lot of beating around the bush, my wife finally said she didn't want to live with Elizabeth anymore. This floored me, and I asked her what her ideal situation would be. And she replied that we should ask around and see if any of her friends' parents want to take her until she turns 18. I don't know in what world she thought this would happen, but I told her absolutely not. After my wife and I mutually agreed to take Elizabeth in, I made her a promise that this would be her new home, that we could never replace her family, but we would do our best to make her feel safe and secure and happy, at a time where she was sure that she would never feel safe or secure or happy again. I am absolutely not going to uproot her from the place she's now begun to call home, to pawn her off to whoever would agree to take her. I have never seen my wife be cruel or heartless, but I suppose I've never really seen her be tested. I think she doesn't like that she can't control Elizabeth, whereas in the past, she's always lived with people she could control. My wife got incredibly angry over the fact that I wouldn't even entertain finding a new home for Elizabeth, as though she was some sort of misbehaving pet. She said I was choosing Elizabeth over her own comfort. I finally told her if she didn't want to live with Elizabeth anymore, that was fine. But since Elizabeth wasn't going to leave the house, she could. She stormed out. I assume she's going to stay with her parents. I don't know what's going to happen in the upcoming weeks and months in regards to our marriage, but I think we both need to reassess if our morals and values are still in line with each other's. Elizabeth doesn't come home until next week, so I'll figure out what I'm going to tell her before then. I don't want her to think this is her fault. Thanks again, everyone. I hope I included everything. If I forgot anything, I'll be happy to answer any remaining questions. Have a great night. I would suggest reaching out to a counselor before your goddaughter returns to get some insight into how best to handle the communication with your goddaughter. I'm not sure there's much you can do about your wife. There's a word for people who have to have the world revolve around them. That's a great idea. Thank you. I think I will reach out to Elizabeth's therapist and ask her how to best approach the situation. The world needs more people like you, OP. Kudos on being an upstanding guy and role modeling to those around you. Better to see the parenting differences now rather than later. Elizabeth and future children are so lucky to have you. This is an extremely poor indicator of your wife's future parenting skills. Time and attention? Children require nothing but time and attention. If she can't manage the time and attention for a 15-year-old, how will she deal with a baby? I disagree with the people praising you to the skies though, OP, because you are simply doing what a decent parent, which is what you are now, a foster parent, does. That is, put the needs of their child over the preferences of other independent adults. You're a decent parent, OP. Keep it up. The right choices are usually the hardest ones to make. Good on you for doing the right thing by your goddaughter even if it means a potential end to your marriage. You are a good man and a good father. You did the right thing. It may hurt now, but it would have been worse later. I suppose I've never really seen her be tested. I think she doesn't like that she can't control Elizabeth, whereas in the past she's always lived with people she could control. Are you included in the list of people she controls? Are you okay? Have you ever considered how this relationship serves you? Definitely see to it that her controlling/egotistical nature does not affect Elizabeth. But next steps include considering unpacking that very horrifying description of your wife with a counselor/therapist and see how this affected your own well-being and self-worth. Yeah, that was alarming to read. I hope you're okay, OP, and I'm proud of you for standing your ground and doing what's best for Elizabeth. Just imagine if you had kids with your wife. How she would handle a screaming baby, a disobedient toddler, a snarky preteen, a rebellious teenager. Children are not things to be controlled, but humans to be encouraged to grow and become functioning, independent members of society. A controlling parent is just as bad as a friend parent who refuses to discipline their child. I wouldn't want to have children with a woman like your wife. It would be 18 years of hell for both you and the kid. Last story is titled, My 29 female, husband 29 male, got a tattoo of my face without telling me. I wish this was a joke. For context, we've been together almost 4 years and married for a little over a year. I'm currently out of the country visiting a close friend when he sent me a video of him and our cat where he suddenly kept showing me something on his thigh. I asked what it was, and we video chatted so he could reveal it. It was a tattoo of my face. He had asked me last week what my favorite picture of myself was, so I sent one to him. I asked why, but he just said he was curious. My birthday and our anniversary are coming up, so I thought it maybe had something to do with that. But no, it was for the tattoo. I hate it and couldn't hide it on my face. I kept asking if it was fake and if it was a prank. But no, he insisted it was real, and it definitely looked real. The art itself wasn't very good either. He could tell I didn't like it, and I was honest with him, that I didn't like it. Don't usually like tattoos of people's faces. That I was in shock right now because this was so unexpected. I asked him why he didn't tell me about this. He said he wanted it to be a surprise. So I told him, how is this an acceptable surprise? He just said he loves me so much and wanted to put that love on his body. I told him that I felt like this was something we should have talked about since it's my face, and that there were other ways he could have represented his love. And that I just didn't understand how he went through with us without telling me. He was dumbfounded and crushed that I didn't like it, which made me feel awful because I could tell he was holding back tears. I think it hit a little extra hard since it's his first and only tattoo, and we've been talking about his different tattoos ideas since we first met. I ended a video chat by telling him I needed to process this, and let's rest and chat tomorrow. I'm really upset at this. I honestly find it embarrassing. I'm at a loss of what to do next. But I'm also upset I crushed him by not liking it. And I won't be home for another 2 weeks for us to have a conversation in person. He's always been a bit impulsive, but it's never been ridiculous like this. I literally cannot imagine looking at my face on his leg forever. Now for the top advice. Number 1 rule of tattoo: never get anything to do with your significant other. Bad luck, and it's kinda tacky if you ask me. Don't do it with your BFF either. It's almost certainly a sign of impending doom. Source: I have a BFF tattoo with someone I'm no longer friends with. I've gotten several tattoos that represented people in my life, but fortunately I had foresight to only choose designs that are significant to me as an individual as well. Some of the people who I got tattoos for aren't in my life anymore, but I still love the tattoos. To be fair, he never said he wanted it to be an acceptable surprise. I am the owner of a regretful tattoo as well. A scantily clad pinup girl looks great on the shoulder blade of a 21-year-old U.S. Marine infantryman, but a bit out of place on a married 35-year-old father of 2 at a church pool party. I am in the middle of getting mine removed completely. It's a little painful, but it hurts the wallet more. I would suggest having a conversation about getting it lightened to a point that it can be covered up. Work with a tattoo artist to design a cover-up together that represents your relationship. It will need to heal completely before the laser treatments can start, and it will take multiple treatments. r/tattoo removal is a great resource for learning about the removal process. I like tattoos, but I've never seen one of a person's face that didn't remind me of Chucky or his bride. Unfortunately, his tattoo is there to stay, so I don't know how you fix this. There are literally 5,382 shows on TV right now called some variation of fixing tattoo disasters. Tattoos can be removed or covered up. Update. I-33 female read my husband's 37 journal, and in it he says that he hates me and hopes I die. Original post. My husband has kept a semi-regular journal throughout our 4-year relationship. He does not keep it hidden, and up until now I've always respected his privacy. We had a heated conversation and my gut told me to read it. So after we left for work, I did. He wrote several times that he hates me, and at one point he said when I was sick, he hoped I would die. When I read those words, I packed up me and our baby and went to a friend's where I'm staying now. I took pictures of all the pages. I told him I just need some space to cool off after our conversation and I will be home soon. I booked with my therapist and contacted a lawyer. We had a rough patch recently that lasted about 2 weeks. It was a dark time, but we pulled through. There was no violence, no moments where I was afraid of him, just sincere conversations about difficult feelings. The notes of hatred correspond with that rough patch. The rest of the journal is tame and reflects the men I know and love, mostly little self-pep talks around work and family stuff. Goals, habit tracking. He has sent me several warm messages since I left. He says he's glad I'm taking space for myself, that he looks forward to reconnecting when I come home, that it's okay to have little hiccups, and that he loves me, etc. I was sure our relationship was over the moment I read that he hates me, or even the moment I felt the need to violate his privacy. But the warm messages and the rest of the journal have me wavering a little. I understand the need to blow off steam when things are tense, and journaling is a healthy way to do that. But never in even our darkest moments have I fantasized about his death. Splitting up maybe, but this feels so sinister. I don't know how I could ever feel safe around him again. Is this just healthy venting and I'm overreacting here? Has anyone else had similar thoughts about his spouse that they then got over? Or is this a man I need to protect myself and my baby from? Edit to add context. The rough patch was about his feelings for another woman. He didn't cheat, but his friendship with her makes me uncomfortable. The part of the journal where he says he hates me was written as a love letter to her. He says he thinks about me dying and being replaced. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. He wishes you dead? And no, you are not overreacting. That is how he feels about you. All the other is an act. Girl, check if he has taken life insurance on your name with him as a beneficiary. Especially because they're fighting over the fact that he has feelings for another woman. Not a good combination of factors. Yeah, I don't want to wind up on the wrong end of a podcast.
I would be genuinely scared if I knew my husband had thought of those thoughts and then gone to the effort of writing them down. I don't think it's safe for you and your baby to stay with him, especially if mere weeks ago he was wanting to replace you with another woman he has feelings for and was hoping you would die so he can move on with her easily. That's horrifying. If he wanted to be with someone else rather than you, the normal thing to write in a journal would be about leaving you amicably and then seeing the other woman, and feeling sad about leaving the mother of his child. Wanting you dead instead is a giant, massive red flag. And if I was in your shoes, I don't think I could ever trust him again. I'm married 17 years and I've never wished my spouse would die. Like what? Does he know you've seen this? He just left it out like he wanted you to see it. And you are the mother of his child. He doesn't know I've seen it. He has always left it out. This is really freaking scary. He didn't even bother hiding all that vitriol where you could never find it. He left it right out in the open, almost like he wanted you to see it. Please do not be swayed by those sweet little stupid texts. I'd always have someone with you if you're going to be in the house with him. I really don't want to see you on the news. Mini update. Thank you so much for all the advice and words of encouragement. Some of it was tough to read, but still deeply appreciated. Wanted to do an update because a lot of people were concerned for my safety. I took a commenter's advice and sent the pictures to a trusted friend. She pointed out that a passage I initially read as "every day I'd think about telling her" actually very clearly says "killing her." I guess my brain couldn't comprehend that at first. I received a ton of helpful perspective and support, but that comment in particular might have saved my life. After I digested that, I called the crisis line and they were quite helpful in talking me through the shock. They also put me in touch with a center that's helping me get more affordable legal help. Bought some more time for my husband. Told him I'm enjoying getting out of town and I'd like to stay an extra night or two. I have therapy tomorrow and an appointment with a social worker to make a safety plan. I feel like I have a good crew of family, friends, and professionals supporting me. Absolutely zero regrets now about reading his journal. My gut told me something was off, but I couldn't have imagined a worst-case scenario as bad as this. I'm so glad the inner alarm bells were louder than my conscience this time. Nothing about this marriage is worth risking my life to salvage. Now for the full update. Just want to say a huge thank you to this community for helping me through a challenging time. Your comments and messages have been such a comfort, and I'm so touched by the kindness of internet strangers. At the suggestion of the social worker, I reported his journal to the local police, and that was unsurprisingly a 1 out of 10 experience. The officer I spoke to chided me for reading his journal, spoke about his reasonable expectation of privacy, and basically threatened to tell my husband I had reported him. I had to firmly advocate for myself and stress that I was afraid for my life. It was an awful conversation, but now there is at least a record which includes photos of the journal. The family lawyer I spoke with advised me to file a protection order right away. The order will ban him from all contact with me and our child, bar him from our residence, my workplace, and any other places I request. He would then have to prove to a judge that he is a fit parent to be able to see his daughter again. And then we would go to mediation to try and agree on what visitation would look like. Another wrench in this situation is that we own a business together. I have an appointment with another lawyer this week to discuss what my options are there. The business was my idea. I'm confident I can run it without him, and I want to. But it's put a lot of time into it, and it's the main source of income for both of us right now. It's a good money maker, and I'm worried he'd fight me tooth and nail on this. We take turns going in, so I went as usual on Saturday with a friend and a baseball bat. I continued my act of intending to reconcile, doing video calls with a baby, etc. While I was at our workplace, I found another journal. Page after page love letters to this other woman going back months. The progression from "I liked seeing you at a grocery store" to "I drove past your house today" was wild. He writes about how he's deeply in love with her, can't wait to marry her, etc. He wrote about every interaction he's ever had with her, and the poor woman seems completely innocent and oblivious. Even what he perceived as flirting seems like basic politeness. He mentions a few other times that he wants me to die. The most recent entry was from a day before. He writes to her that he thinks I might be breaking up with him, but that's fine because he never liked me that much anyway. If he's upset about anything, it's just about losing the house and how the breakup will be perceived by our friends and community. Curious if people think I should warn the other woman. It's my instinct not to, at least not before the ink dries in our impending paperwork. I was already concerned about how he might react to being served with a protection order. Most worried that he might try to sabotage our business or trash the house. Given how preoccupied he seems to be with his public image, I made a plan to confront him about the journals and use the protection order as leverage. Here's how it went down. I left the journal and my baby with my friend and went to our house with 2 trusted male friends and a baseball bat. They waited on our porch. I told my husband that if they heard anything louder than a speaking voice, they would come in with a bat. I told him I had to tell him something he wouldn't like to hear, and he needed to know that I had already taken steps to protect myself. I told him I had read the journals, specifically what he said about wanting me to die and thinking every day about ending me. I said I'd taken photos, that they are backed up, and a trusted source also has copies, that I also have the original copy of the journal full of love letters. I wondered until this moment if he had intended for me to find them, but he was obviously blindsided. He tried to say it was just venting, but I told him I would not be taking any chances or entertaining anything he has to say about it. That after reading what I read, I will never trust him or feel safe around him ever again. I told him that no one that knows him knows about this yet. The men on the porch just know that I'm breaking up with him and need support. This was true, aside from the friend that I called to stay with and the other friend I sent the photos to who lives on the other side of the country. I said I'm willing to protect his reputation here if he cooperates with me. I told him that I don't even have to ruin his chances with the other woman, but I can. I said that he can either do what I need to feel safe, or I can have that safety court ordered. He asked what I wanted, and I said I wanted him to give up the business. We'll sort out the details after I speak to the other lawyer, but for now I want his keys and I'll be changing the passwords and everything. He didn't put up any kind of fight. He didn't want to hear anything about what it would look like to go through the courts. He didn't ask about our baby. He just calmly got up and got the keys and asked if I wanted anything else. I told him that any communication with me should be about separation logistics only, like arranging a time for me to collect the rest of my things. Since then, he has blowing up my phone saying I know his heart, let's walk back from the edge, let's talk to a therapist, his sorry's words hurt me, etc. Each time, I just tell him he's crossing my boundaries, and he backs off. He apparently told his mom and sister everything and they're supporting him and getting help. He's been cooperative so far. He's interviewing for a new job, seeing a therapist, and updating me on his movements, though I didn't ask for this. I've temporarily moved in with my parents. My commute to work is longer, but I have help with baby and home-cooked dinners. Starting to settle into new routines, doing so much therapy and yoga. I inherited a small cabin before my husband and I met. It is currently being renovated, and the original plan was to move in there with my husband and baby when it's done. The cabin is actually in my mother's name, because she's never trusted my husband and wanted me to shield it from him in case of a divorce. Thank you, Mom. So, I will have a permanent home for me and baby very soon. The dust still needs to settle, and it could get worse before it gets better, but I'm optimistic at this point. I'm confident I'm going to come out the other side of this as a badass single mother with an incredible child, a thriving business, and an adorable little home. Honestly, the thought of having all those things on my own without my husband is so freeing. I've got a great village supporting me. Thank you all so much for being part of it. I am so thankful to read this. I've been thinking about you the last 2 days. So happy you advocated for yourself, took the correct measures, and didn't accept anything less than what you deserve in this life. The road ahead isn't ever as long as we think it is, and it's good you left and are able to heal and move forward. Thanks for keeping me in your thoughts. He doesn't care about his child. That is what's most shocking to me. He was always such an attentive father, but he's not fighting for her at all. I'd love to know exactly why OP's mother didn't trust the husband. What did she see in him? Sometimes it's just your gut. My stepsister had a boyfriend that eventually was found to be on several hookup sites and such. He never was violent, but gave off stalker vibes when she eventually broke up with him. Went so far that I was escorting her when she was meeting people because he would show up at her apartment. Separate from each other, my mother, I, and even my grandmother, who had met my stepsister once and had no contact to her at all, just had this bad gut feeling starting before he was found in those sites when thinking of her. Gut feelings are weird, man. My mom once told me regarding my now ex-husband but then fiancé that he seems like the kind of guy that would just up and unalive his family one night. And everyone would say, "Holy crap," we never saw that coming. It was just a specific and jarring comment. My ex-husband honestly seemed so sweet and innocent. When things started going downhill, he started stalking me, physically intimidating me, cornering me and towering over me. Told me he'll ensure I'm destitute when this is all done. He literally flipped to a different guy, and I think my mom saw something I didn't. I had a boyfriend sleepover when I lived at my mom's, and she didn't sleep all night. He was in my bed, I was on a couch. She was strict about sharing. It was her first time meeting him. I commented that I couldn't understand why she had an issue when she never had an issue sleeping when I'd had past boyfriends sleep over on a couch. Turned out, he was emotionally abusive, and she sensed that something wasn't right about him at the first meeting. Sometimes people outside a relationship pick up a feeling, a vibe, an off-comment that those who are in a relationship can't see until later on. Last story. I still can't believe how my boyfriend changed since we discovered that I was pregnant. So me and my boyfriend have been together for 7 years and we are living together since 5. For 3 years, my boyfriend was never a sweet, romantic, and caring person with me. I still can't remember one romantic or caring thing he did for me, and I thought a lot during these 3 years of leaving him or not, because all he was doing was just living off his parents' money, drinking, watching football on the TV, and casually remembering that I too exist, and talking with me. Trust me when I say that after 3 years like this, I was having enough and was thinking to leave him because I want a man and not an amoeba that only remember about me for meals, watching TV with him at d***s. But then, out of the blue, he changed, and I still can't believe that he's the same. His parents unfortunately died 4 years ago, and just a week after the funeral, I found out that I was pregnant. I was extremely in doubt of telling him or just terminate, because a man like him wouldn't be better with a child. But then he found out my positive pregnancy test and told me that he was super happy while I was thinking about what to do. Since the day after, he completely changed. He started to be caring, sweet, romantic, quit drinking, and started to take good care of me and himself. So after 2 weeks of his change, somehow I decided to give him a one last chance to prove that he was seriously changed. But I admit that I was extremely skeptical. I didn't believe him at first, because to me, it was impossible that an amoeba like him could change seriously, and even when I was pregnant. But trust me, he completely changed. During my pregnancy, he became another man. He started helping me like with dressing, putting on shoes, making me craving meals, and this were the first times he was cooking. And when the time came, he even asked to be in the room with me to watch the birth of our child, and I accepted it. This wasn't just a phase, because when our daughter was born, he still continued to act caring and sweet with me and with our daughter. He always made me feel loved, secure, and finally special. The other important things he did were getting in shape, returning to the university to take his dream degree while working to maintain us. So now he has his degree. Our daughter came to his big day and even yelled, "Daddy!" making me cry like a baby, haha, and found a pretty good job since a few months. I still can't believe that he is the man that 4 years ago was an amoeba, and now he became the best boyfriend and dad that I can dream. And he is spending a lot of time with our daughter, and they created a special bond, leaving me stunned. And another thing to add is that 2 weeks ago he asked me to marry him, and seeing his drastic change made me say yes. Even his friends, my friends, and my family are still in shock and disbelief with his drastic change. So yeah, the situation is this, and sincerely I'm still in shock that he is the same guy 4 years ago. But somehow, and for some reasons that I don't know, he is totally another man, and I can't even think of someone better. P.S. He quit drinking and now 4 years since his last drink. Now for the comments. Good for you. Sounds like your family is important to him enough that he made major changes. I wish you much happiness in your future. What a wonderful story. I was honestly expecting the exact opposite when I read the title, and I'm so happy to see that I was wrong. Congratulations on your daughter and marriage. Family deaths can lead to lots of serious reflection. He probably was already doing a lot of soul searching from their passing, and then you told him you were pregnant and he stepped up. Quitting drinking was a huge step. That alone probably led to a huge change. Congrats. Sounds like my dad. He liked drinking and fighting, lol, before my older sister was born. After she was born, he just stopped. Hasn't been drinking since. Just before I was born, he found his high-end job. That is after they struggled financially because they were so young when they had my sister. He built a house with a garage for us when I was 4. Now they've been together for 43 years. People can change. And I'm so happy that is the case for your boyfriend. Wish you all the best.
Update. Am I the a-hole for losing it and screaming at my girlfriend to get out of my house after what her stepbrother did? Original post. My girlfriend was over at my place 2 days ago. We're both 20. She has a stepbrother who's 23. Before this, I'd only met him a few times, and he seemed like a regular dude. She asked if it was okay for him to come over for a couple of hours, and I said why not. He said he would bring booze and pizza, and since my parents were away visiting relatives for the weekend, I figured we could hang out. I have a little sister who's 15. She stayed in her room the entire time. We were all a bit tipsy, and my girlfriend's stepbrother asked if he could use the bathroom. I pointed him to the one down the hall. My girlfriend and I were preoccupied and didn't realize how much time had passed until we heard raised voices upstairs. We immediately went to check what was going on and found my sister crying. Apparently, instead of using the bathroom, he went upstairs. My sister's door was ajar, and he walked into her room. She was shocked and tried to stay calm, but he wouldn't leave. He started trying to chat her up. When she told him to get out, he closed the door behind him instead, which made her panic. She tried to get past him to open the door and he grabbed her, but she managed to open it. By the time I got upstairs, he had backed off. I was furious. There was a lot of yelling and accusations. We were all drunk except for my sister. After hearing her side, I confronted him. He was stuttering and trying to deflect. I'm pretty sure I threatened violence at some point. My girlfriend tried to be the mediator. She said I needed to calm down and couldn't fly off the handle based solely on my sister's word. But I was there. I saw my sister crying and panicking. I know her, and I know she wouldn't lie about something like this. Why would she? I told her stepbrother to get out of my house. My girlfriend kept saying we could sort this out and have a proper conversation, but I didn't see what there was to discuss. Then she said, "What if your sister is lying right in front of my sister?" I asked her what would make her think that, and she said, she's a kid and could be making it up for attention. That's when I lost it. I told her to get the heck out. She's been calling me ever since, but I ignored her. The dust has settled a bit. I went over everything again with my sister, and she promised me it happened exactly as she told me. She said she was scared he was going to essay her. This morning, my girlfriend texted me saying I shouldn't have raised my voice and that I scared her. I thought about apologizing, but she still hasn't said a word about apologizing to my sister or addressing her stepbrother's actions. When I asked about him, her response was that there's no hard proof. He ended up doing nothing and I should drop it. She claims she'll deal with him. I don't know if I'm the a-hole for how I handled this. Maybe if cooler heads had prevailed, the silent treatment wouldn't have happened, and we could have talked things through. I love her and don't want this to be the end, but I need advice on what to do moving forward. Now for the top comments. I'm sorry, but your girlfriend is just as trashy as her freaking pedo brother. Yep, she's just as gross as that predator for defending him. Not the a-hole. Protect your sister. And maybe have a big long talk with girlfriend. If she doesn't understand, then reevaluate your relationship. I'm definitely not losing sleep over the way I treated a stepbrother. I think I should have done worse and could have done worse. But I just wanted him out of the house. I'm mad because, over these 2 days, all her texts have been about how she felt and how I could have handled this better. She keeps saying she's never seen this side of me. Which is all true, but when I messaged her back to ask about her brother, her response was effectively, drop it. I can't believe she's being so callous about this. Hey girlfriend, this isn't about you and your feelings. Your adult, drunk stepbrother went into the bedroom of my underage teenage sister, shut the door behind him, and would not leave. The best thing I could do was make him leave. Rather than being appalled and apologetic, you had the audacity to question whether my sister was being honest, right in front of her, at which point I lost my temper. How could you accuse her of lying while seeing how upset she was? Even if you had doubts, that wasn't even vaguely the time or place. Since this happened, the only person you've cared about is yourself. You want an apology for my being angry and shouting, but not once have you apologized or even asked about my sister. Again, this isn't about you. And I don't think this is going to work out since I want to protect my underage sister, and you want to protect your feelings and your potential predator of a stepbrother. Am I sorry I raised my voice at you? Yes, but if ever a situation warranted it, it was this one. And no, you've never seen me like this because I've never been in a position where a grown man shut himself in my sister's bedroom and made her afraid she was going to be essayed. Now we're done, and there's nothing left to say. That's what I said to her. She's a shitbag, and I'd bet he's done this crap before. Now for the update. First off, thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. I tried to read as many comments as I could, and I got some great advice. My girlfriend asked me yesterday if we could talk in person. I agreed, and we met at a public park. She showed up already looking on the verge of tears. User Buttered Crumpet 09, your comment was spot on. I basically said it word for word to her. Lol. She let me speak and was silent for a long time, before she said she was sorry for the way she had reacted. She told me she had been drunk, panicked, and hadn't been thinking clearly, trying to stop it from becoming a fight. We discussed her stepbrother. She told me he has a weird streak and acts oddly sometimes. She said he genuinely could have made a mistake and didn't mean any harm. I asked why he went upstairs in the first place and why he shut himself in with my sister after realizing he was in the wrong room. No answer. I asked how she could be so sure he had no perverted intentions. Again, no answer. Some of you suggested that the stepbrother might have a history or even done something to her. I didn't outright say it, but I was implying it. I kept asking, what if he had gone further? What if he's assaulted someone before and you don't know about it? I asked if there had been incidents like this before, and how she could possibly downplay what happened. She didn't respond. By that point, she was too choked up to speak properly, so I don't think she could have answered even if she wanted to. Anyway, I wasn't there to listen to excuses or justifications, and I told her that. She asked me if we were over, and I said the only way we could move forward was if she apologized to my little sister and then cut all contact with her stepbrother. I don't see a scenario where my sister feels comfortable around him again. She told me she didn't want to lose me, but she couldn't do what I asked. So I told her yes, we're done. My parents came back this morning. Like I said, they had been out of town visiting relatives. I hadn't told them about this over the phone. I just said an incident had happened and I would explain when they got back. My sister asked me to speak to them on her behalf, so I told them everything. My dad gave me a lot of grief, rightfully so. He says he wants to speak to my ex's parents about this and let them know what their son did. The police here are about as useful as tits on a bull, and we discussed it, and we're going to file a report, auto de noticia, anyway. I highly doubt it will go anywhere, but at least it will be on record. My sister is doing better. She was really shaken up and asked if she could sleep in my parents' room or mine for a bit. We'll probably arrange a therapy or counseling session for her and let her decide if she wants to continue. I'm going to take her bowling and then get food, just the two of us, so I can also apologize. I feel upset and guilty, honestly. I trusted my ex, and my naivety put my little sister in danger. I've always thought I was a responsible person, and this happening when I was supposed to be in charge is messing me up. I'm mad at myself, not gonna lie, but we move on. My favorite comments to read were the ones telling me what to do to the stepbrother. I don't ever want to see his face again, but in case I do, someone let me know if you have a wood chipper lying around. Thanks again, everybody. Edit? People have asked if I can run a background check or something. I don't think it's legal for a civilian to do that in my country, Portugal, and I don't know if I can request one, but I'll see. Also, to everybody commenting about underage drinking, I was so confused. That's not a problem here, lol. I won't be incriminating myself for anything by filing a report, so don't worry. I was waiting for this update. Good on you, mate. I still think the creep did something to your ex, which is why she kept deflecting and answering vaguely, saying he acts odd sometimes. Even if he did, it's not your responsibility now though. Your poor baby sister. Hopefully she heals quickly from this. Most people seem to think so. I will say my ex's mother has been with her stepdad for nearly 6 years. She never liked discussing her family and had only recently introduced me to all of them. She never gave any indication of a bad relationship between her and her stepdad/brother. I would have never guessed in a million years if abuse or assault was happening. I hope that's not the case, because that would be seriously messed up. Personally, I don't think it did her something such as abuse or assault, but something more insidious, like grooming. That would explain why she's so vague about him. She told me he genuinely could have made a mistake and didn't mean any harm. Ah, yes, because going into a 15-year-old's room, stopping them exiting, and closing the door is totally a mistake and totally harmless actions. Your ex better not complain. Say he made a mistake and didn't mean any harm if/when he does it again to another 15-year-old, and their brother ends up shooting him. That's what is so scary about it. OP directed him to the downstairs bathroom and went upstairs anyway, while the ex-girlfriend distracted OP. Anyone with any manners would wait a bit if someone is in a bathroom to give them time for their business. I shudder to think what would have happened if the stepbrother had managed to get the sister to be quiet or get a hand over her mouth. I have trouble believing the ex-girlfriend wasn't in on it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for saying my brother shouldn't have brought his pregnant girlfriend to my wedding and for refusing to let her be in my wedding photos? I got married last weekend, and I'm still so angry at what my brother did. He took all the attention away from me and my husband. Normally, I don't feel the need to be the center of attention, but this was my freaking wedding day. I feel like it's all anyone was talking about during the wedding, and now it's the main thing anyone remembers from the entire event. It was a destination wedding within the US, so nothing too crazy. We kept a guest list to our families, immediate and extended, as well as our closest friends. My parents paid for our immediate family to arrive about 5 days ahead of time. So it was my parents, my sister, and me initially, with my brother arriving a few days later. We knew my brother was bringing a date, no big deal. He said it was just bringing a girl from school. He didn't even call her his girlfriend officially. My parents showed up at the airport to pick my brother up, and there he was, hand in hand with an obviously pregnant girl that none of us had ever met. My parents were understandably taken aback. My brother greeted them like everything was normal, according to my mom, and my parents didn't know what to say. Then he just said, "Surprise!" My poor mom almost fainted, and my dad allegedly yelled out, "What the heck have you done?" He introduced us to this girl, but didn't clarify if she was his girlfriend or provide much information at all. It was very weird. It was obvious she was uncomfortable. She said she wasn't feeling well and needed to go lay down after the flight. So at dinner, it was just our family as she rested. We awkwardly sat around a table eating, barely saying a word. Finally, my mom asked brother's name. "Is that your baby?" By then, we all assumed it was, but my mom needed confirmation. The lack of explanation or details from him was just odd. He admitted it's technically not his baby, but he's in love with her and intends to be a father to the baby anyway. The actual father isn't involved and doesn't want to be, and if they get married, he can adopt the baby and be the legal father. She's living with him and none of us knew this either. He's been her main support person throughout the pregnancy. She's 28 weeks, well, 29 now since this was over a week ago. This was worse than what we had all assumed. He is so in love with her that he's willing to take on the responsibility of her child and marry her, yet we'd never even heard of her. He said he'd mentioned her quite a few times. Well, maybe he'd mentioned her name in passing, not to me, maybe to my parents, but never said she was his girlfriend or pregnant. None of us understood. He's 21, about to graduate college, planning to enter law school, and he's an attractive guy. Why would he do this? My parents, especially my mom, were stressed out about it all weekend long, throughout my entire wedding weekend. It was like my wedding became an afterthought. All my parents could talk about was how to make my brother change his mind about this girl. Then when the wedding photographer was taking family pictures, he wanted her in them. That was really the breaking point for me. She isn't family. None of us knew about their relationship, and we'd met her only 2 days prior. She shouldn't be in our official family pictures for my wedding. It's like, forget the bride and groom. Look at this random, heavily pregnant woman hitching herself to my brother. No, I told him no. I refused to let her be in the photos. My mom made me allow her to be in one picture, but said we don't have to buy that one or display it anywhere. It just made my blood boil. Anyway, I don't think he should have brought her. There was no reason to bring her to my wedding, especially without warning. I mean, it's all my side of the family could talk about, and he was hesitant to even correct them about it not being his baby. He said that's because it was awkward for her to have to explain the full scenario to everyone, so he just let people think what they wanted. Because he wouldn't say anything, everyone was gossiping and wondering about it the whole time. I'm posting this because I'm upset that several friends, and even my own mom, are telling me I'm overreacting and just need to accept it. When I told a group of my coworkers about it after the fact, they weren't at the wedding. They agreed with me and thought what my brother did was absolutely insane and rude. Now for the comments. I think he knew in a wedding setting that attention would be divided. Your wedding was his meat shield. Interesting take, and something I hadn't thought of. He was purposely trying to take attention away from me at my wedding. He just wanted some of the attention taken off of him and his poor decisions? Still selfish. Yeah, your feelings are valid, and you haven't overreacted or anything. Not the a-hole. What he did was an a-hole move, though he probably didn't think it through enough to realize all the implications of his actions. He absolutely shouldn't have dropped that bomb at your wedding, or any wedding. I don't think he did it to be malicious. I don't think he thought about what he was doing to me. He also hasn't apologized though. If after being told something you did was rude and hurtful, at least own up to it. He knew exactly what he was doing. Such an a-hole move on his part. What did he think would happen? He couldn't let you have the attention on your wedding day? Is he that spoiled? Not the a-hole. He's the youngest child. He definitely gets away with more than my sister and I ever could. Anything he does usually gets forgiven.